There you go.
Looks like our screen's on.
Yes.
Okay. We good?
Good to go.
Okay. Good evening. I would like to call to order the August 23, 2021 Lake Washington School Board meeting. Let the record reflect that all board members are present. On March 1, all school districts began to hold in-person open public board meetings. Attendees are no longer required to pre-register to attend a board meeting, study session, or special board meeting. But all board meeting, attendees are no longer required to pre-register, but all attendees at meetings, including board members, are required to wear a face mask or covering. Board meetings, study sessions, and special board meetings will continue to be live streamed and viewable on the district's website. If you are, thank you, unable to live stream a meeting, you can call 425-936-2813, conference ID 37127 to listen to the meeting. As I mentioned, at all meetings, all board members, staff, and attendees are required to wear a face mask when in public indoor spaces. The mask requirement has been ordered by Governor Inslee per his emergency powers granted under RCW 43.06.220. Governor Inslee has declared a state of emergency pursuant to Proclamation 20-05. That was declared on February 29, 2020. Further, Governor Inslee has modified this proclamation to the current version, that is 20-25.14, entitled Washington Ready, and that was given on July 1, 2021. The current order related to masking when in public indoor spaces became effective today, August 23, 2021. Given the governor's state of emergency and public indoor mask requirement, this board will comply with the requirement and require that all attendees comply with the requirement. The board asks anyone not complying currently with the mask requirement to please go to the back of the room where disposable masks are available that will allow you to comply while attending our board meeting. And I see a couple of folks in the audience who do not have masks on right now. If you would not mind, in the back of the room we have extras, and we just ask that you would put a mask on. That is fascinating.
That's a new one.
That is a new one. So we just have.
I got it.
Okay. Okay. Hold on, we're having some. No, not even a little bit. No. I no. Hold on, we're making sure our automated, it's not our automated, our telephone is working before we proceed. So we'll just be on recess for a few minutes here.
Mr. Eric, the last time you shut my microphone off, and I was wondering if this time around, when I press.
Are we good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. I guess I'll just ask one more time for the folks in the audience here tonight who do not have a mask. I would just ask one more time if you'd please put one on.
On what grounds
Okay.
do you believe that RCW 423004, which says the conditions with attendance,
Well, I'm going to proceed without the, if that's not working. Okay. All right. Under the governor's current proclamation, public agencies are permitted to hold in-person public meetings, but we can do so only if we comply with the state and county health requirements. One of those requirements is that all attendees at our meetings must wear face coverings. For those in attendance who are not wearing a face covering, if you continue to refuse, we will have to adjourn the meeting, clear the boardroom, and complete the meeting remotely. So I'll just ask one more time.
This is what you did the last time, and you came back after you realized
Okay.
that I have
keep going.
The board values holding our business meetings in public and hearing from constituents at our meetings. We believe that these public meetings and the comments we receive and the civil discourse that occurs at our meetings helps to model for our students how a citizen can respectfully and politely advocate and participate in democratic society. But we also believe it's our responsibility to comply with the law. Because we have attendees here today who refuse to comply with the current health and safety requirements, under RCW 42.30.050 of the Open Public Meetings Act, which governs disruptions, the board can order this meeting adjourned, clear the room, and then continue the meeting or reconvene at another location. Should the board take this action, those interested can view the meeting on the district's website, that is lwsd.org. And for those who are interested and wish to give public comment, you may still do so. Please email Diane Jenkins at djenkins@lwsd.org, and you'll be provided a link to participate and comment remotely. The board can also email the board, the public can also email the board at boardmembers@lwsd.org. Given that we have attendees who are refusing to wear a face mask, I will now entertain a motion to clear the boardroom, at which time the board will continue its session in a different location. So I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Bleasner and seconded by Director Carlson that we clear the boardroom and continue this meeting in a different location. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, hearing none, the motion carries. With the passage of this motion, all attendees must leave the boardroom. At this time, a 30-minute recess will be taken. The board will reconvene at 7:45. Again, I apologize to those who did come tonight and were willing to wear or who were going to comply. If you could please, if you would wish to provide public comment, if you would like to provide public comment, please email Diane Jenkins at djenkins@lwsd.org to receive a link to provide comment remotely. The meeting is adjourned. We're on recess. Could you mute it? Yeah. Okay, good evening again. We're calling back to order the August 23, 2021 Lake Washington School Board meeting. The next item on the agenda is public comment. The board welcomes the public to the business meetings of the board and encourages community engagement. The board dedicates 30 minutes to these meetings to hear from the public during the public comment period. There are 3 ways to give public comment. One is in person. To do so, please pre-register by emailing Diane Jenkins at djenkins@lwsd.org by 1 p.m. on the day of the board meeting to attend a board meeting to provide public comment. Another option is, is there a way to keep our video spotlighted, or is that not an option? Okay. The other option is to provide public comments by email in writing, and to do so, please email Diane Jenkins at djenkins@lwsd.org by 3 p.m. on the day of the board meeting. All written public comments are compiled, distributed to the board, and posted on the district's website. Due to time constraints, not all individuals that submit public comment will have their statements read aloud at the board meeting. Public comment will be, if time permitting, public comment will be offered in the order to receive.
We need to approve the agenda tonight as well.
Did I skip over that? I did. Okay.
We didn't get to that.
I'll return to that after I finish this.
Yeah.
Finally, you can provide public comment through Teams, as many people are doing tonight. To do that, please email Diane Jenkins again at djenkins@lwc.org by 1 p.m. on the day of the board meeting, and a Teams link will be shared with you to join the board meeting. You can then share your comments, which are recorded and televised. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. You are asked to turn your camera and microphone on and speak for the designated 3 minutes. While you're waiting for your turn, I ask that you keep your camera and your microphone off until I call for you. After public comment is concluded, it's requested that you leave the Teams meeting and continue watching the live stream broadcast at our website, lwc.org, if you're interested in viewing the meeting. And I got a little ahead of myself because the first thing we need to do tonight is approve the agenda. So I'll now entertain a motion to approve the August 23, 2021 agenda. Moved by Director Stewart, seconded by Director Carlson, that we approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The agenda is approved. So as I mentioned, the first item for tonight is public comment. We have a lot of folks joining us tonight on Teams. First time doing this, so we'll just bear with me and we'll try to get through everyone. I'm going to start with the two individuals who first requested to provide televised public comment in advance of the meeting. First I have Yingju Ren, and then after Yingju Ren will be Kao Sun. Is Yingju Ren on our meeting?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent, we can hear you.
Okay. So, yeah, I know you have been working very hard on the equity policy, the OE14, and also saw some positive changes. However, I still have some concerns. I'm not sure what measures will be taken after the policy is adopted and what impacts will be on Asia community. First, I want to know if you will help us keep our traditional value in parenting our young children regarding their gender selection. We respect others' choice, but we also want to keep our own value. Second, Section 14.4 uses the wording appropriately rigorous expectations. This makes me think of what happened in Oregon. They lowered the requirement for high school graduation to help those who found challenge at test taking. Don't follow their steps. Education system should take the responsibility to prepare the children in competing with the world. There's always a way to help kids to improve their test taking skills and other skills, not taking an easy route. Remove the test or remove any challenge. If the bar is lower, disparity will be larger because parents pursuing academic success will be forced to invest more efforts and resources to challenge their children and sharpen their skills, less efforts and resources into the community. An article published on US Today last February told us the latest result of an international exam given to teenagers ranked the USA 9th in reading and 31st in math out of 79 countries and economies. America has a smaller than average share of top performing math students, and scores have essentially been flat for 2 decades. Do you think appropriately rigorous expectation is enough? Third, I know you want to address the problem of sense of belonging. My daughter, who graduated from Alcott Elementary this year, found her sense of belonging from the care, the smells, the understanding given by some teachers and who are not Asian. She asked me to move her brother to Alcott as soon as possible because her recess teacher is going to retire soon. Although my child has a good experience in this regard, I'm not saying there is no problem in the school system. I'm not against the diversity in the teaching team, but I'm asking you to hire people based on qualification, based on the criteria who can take good care of children's academic, social, and emotional needs. Do not hire people for the purpose of diversity. I wish our children grow healthily, mentally and physically. Wish the school district would help students well prepared for the world in front of them. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Ms. Friend. Next, I have Tao Sun.
Hi, this is Tao.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for letting me voice myself. So I just want to share one concern regarding equal outcome, because I do feel that actually will put some discrimination, and I feel like equal opportunities and equal outcome even conflict with itself, because with equal opportunity, that means everyone should be given the same opportunity and do the same like computation. For example, even you look at Olympics, right? Like everyone is given the equal opportunity, but they still will receive the rank. But with equal outcome, honestly, like I'm not sure what will happen, and especially like those kind of things has happened in history. And I even wrote a public comment, like the Department of Justice has sued Yale University because of this similar to this equal outcome policy. Actually, Asian and white students, they're discriminated. So as an LWSD parent, I really don't want to see that. So I really want to share the concern on this, and I will really hope we can think about how to quantify the equal opportunity. That's definitely, like, we definitely support that. But for equal outcome, we should really think about that.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and providing comment. We appreciate
Thank
it. Next, I have Arthur Weiner. I think I saw him on the attendees signed in. Arthur?
Yes.
Excellent. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm going to respectfully wait until I can deliver my comments in person.
Okay, not a problem. Our next meeting is, not off the top of my head, September 9 sounds right.
Okay.
We hope to see you then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Greta Clymer.
Hi, thank you so much.
Hello.
When we meet in a month, I hope to be able to thank you for adopting an ambitious equity policy. This is how we serve all students. When we meet in a few more months, it is my hope to be able to share that I'm hearing from parents of BIPOC children that their kids have had a great start to the school year. This is how we serve all students. When we meet at the end of the semester, I sincerely hope to be able to tell you that BIPOC teachers and staff are not job hunting to leave the school district. This is how we serve all students. When we meet at kindergarten registration, I hope we're both a little surprised and a lot delighted to see that the number of incoming BIPOC kindergartners reflects the actual number living in the district. This is how we serve all students. When we meet at graduation next year, I hope we both pause and note that LWSD supported and graduated more Black students and that the gap in graduation rates is already closing. This is how we serve all students. When we meet next summer with staff, I hope we both feel the calm confidence that comes with having recruited and empowered a staff that reflects the diversity of our student population. This is how we serve all students. When we meet in a few years, maybe at a kindergarten event for our future grandchildren right here in Lake Washington, I hope we can look back and know that in 2021, we did right by all students, that our district became a model of equity which other school districts followed, thereby making life better for all the more students, staff, and families across the country. I trust that we will look back and know that it was necessary and worth finding the grit to set equity policy that felt bold and courageous back in 2021. It is true that in a few years we will understand more of what needed to change. We will understand more of what it means to be anti-racist as individuals and as a school district. And it is also true that delivering equity is how we serve all students. We know that today, and that is what we must do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kleiner. And I misspoke just a few minutes ago. Our next board meeting is on September 13th. That's the Monday.
Thank you.
Yeah, September 13th, not September 9th. Okay, next I have Joy Randall. Ms. Randall, are you? I think I saw it.
I am here.
You are here. Oh, great.
Hi there.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi, directors, Dr. Holman, Joy Randall, who a few of you have corresponded with for the video Students of Color Speak Out. I, along with another district parent, partnered with the students. It was and still much appreciated that you screened the full video in its entirety at the last meeting, giving many others the opportunity to listen to these brave student stories. I know this is only a fraction of the students of color that have stories to share. After watching the video, I'm curious to hear each of your thoughts and feelings after hearing the stories. Were you surprised at all? Did you think, what in the world is going on that this is happening in this day and age? I heard from many viewers who expressed surprise. I myself was one that was surprised to hear what they shared. I was suddenly taken back to when I was in grade school, over 40 years ago, to my own experiences as a student of color. I still think today, why didn't the teachers back then do anything for me? Where were they? It really hit me that nothing has truly changed. So I will say that I do feel especially protective of these students who courageously shared their lived experiences, and I also connected to those experiences. I want them to be truly heard, truly listened to, and most importantly, to see real action take place in our school community so that another 40 years from now, this conversation is not taking place again. I had an opportunity to participate in a Lincoln session last year. I recall directors Carlson and Lalibert were there, and that is where I met one of the students who was interviewed for the video as well. There was much anticipation and much hope from all of these sessions, from all the conversations where so many, especially Black members of the community, took the time and gave so much energy in sharing their stories, input, and feedback. Only to then see a proposed policy that does not center the fact that race is the single most significant factor in predicting educational outcomes. That doesn't take ownership of existing inequalities in our educational system. One of the significant pillars that upholds white supremacy is our educational system. If we cannot even address that in a policy that's supposed to work towards equity, then this vague color blindness will keep us maintaining the status quo as BIPOC students continue to suffer in silence. While to step in the right direction, to finally have an equity policy on the table, we call on you to be bolder, be braver, be courageous as those students who shared their pain in the video and establish a policy that is clear, that gives the superintendent a clear mandate that will dismantle racism in our school district. Have clear commitments and actions to take and have set timelines. This benefits everyone. It benefits all the students, Black, white, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, Pacific Islander. We create a world where everyone thrives, building a strong community. Do not let fear from others who draw lines between us pit us against each other, letting white supremacy continue its insidious hold of either or and stoke false fear of having less because others have a chance to thrive. One of the interviewed students in the video talks about intersectionality. True racial justice is intersectional. All oppression is interconnected. Let's begin laying a solid path by being honest that race must be directly addressed and not diluted down and get caught up in oppression Olympics. You must do more than the bare minimum. I, as a Filipino immigrant, as an Asian woman and parent, wear this shirt in solidarity with others who want true change. I stand with the Black families who also want the true change. The quote on the back is from Lerone Bennett Jr., who, as a Black scholar, author, and social historian, an educator in an oppressive system is either a revolutionary or an oppressor. We all can be revolutionaries if we want. There is no neutrality here. You have this great opportunity, and we ask you to take it and bring this district into a leadership role that we all can be proud of and continue building together. I appreciate your time, and thank you for all your hard work and this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Randall. Thank you for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Okay. Next, I have Marjorie Carlson. And then after Ms. Carlson, I have Andrew.
Hi, I can hear me, but I can't see me. There we go.
Hello.
Good evening, directors. I'm coming to you from the parking lot outside, I guess. It's been a wild evening. I know you folks have gotten dozens of emails from people concerned about the equity policy. And I don't want to rehash those statements. I just want to co-sign them and then add two thoughts about, I guess, responding to thoughts I thought you might have had reading them. One is, I think you might be thinking people want a much more specific policy, and maybe they don't realize this is just the board policy and there are also administrative policies coming. So I just wanted to address that and say that we do know that this is supposed to be a general board policy and that there will be administrative policies that operationalize it. So our concern about the language not being specific enough isn't that we expected all of those details. It's that we really wanted it to name race and its central position in this issue, and to take responsibility for the state of things and for the unacceptable situation that we're in right now. And the second thing I wanted to address is that I know from watching the study session where you discussed this, that there's a lot of concern about the relationship between inclusion and diversity and anti-racism, and whether it's necessary to call out anti-racism specifically, or is that a subset of other sorts of oppressions. And I just wanted to say two things on that point. One is I definitely recognize there are all kinds of oppressions that people are facing in the school. I grew up disabled. My kid is LGBTQ. All these things are connected. We need to address all these connected oppressions, but we really need to recognize the centrality of anti-Black racism in the systems of oppression in the US. And I want to quote a local great leader and thinker, James Whitfield, who points out that when we really address anti-Black racism in civil rights laws, in judicial rulings and so on, those increases in rights have then passed on to other groups as well. We saw that the disability rights movement built on the Black civil rights movement, the LGBTQ movement built on the Black civil rights movement. But when we center other folks other than Black community members and the oppression they face, those advances in rights don't tend to pass on to Black community members. I'm not explaining that very well, but it's really important that we center Black students' experience in this. It's so important in this work, and I really urge you to rework the policy so that it's more specific about the centrality of that problem. Thank you so much for your work. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
Sorry, technical issue. Thanks for joining us tonight. Please unmuting.
Yes.
Okay, next we have Andrew. I don't have a last name. Is there an Andrew signed in? No, I don't see anyone named Andrew on the meeting attendee list right now. So we'll keep moving. Next, I have Diana Williams.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you able? Hello?
Hi, you froze for just a moment. We can hear you though.
Okay, I'm standing outside the building on borrowed Wi-Fi, so I'm hoping that it works okay.
Okay.
Oh, I have 3 children in the school district, and I want the same things that everybody else wants, even those that disagree with me. I want children to show up and for them to do the work and to get the outcomes that they get relative to their work. This is why I show up. This is why I do the work that I do for my son. This is the work that I do for all of the children in the school district. The feedback that I have provided to you all is around the specificity, but I haven't explained why the specificity is important. As we've seen in the variety and diversity of comments today, is that the interpretation of the policy as written is very broad. So what anti-racism means, what inclusivity means, what welcome means, varies widely. To take a broad stance against racism and to be anti-racist is about dismantling systems and barriers that discriminate based upon race. Equity is about distributing the resources to those by need. It's about not allowing privilege to shake up the system so that those who don't have access to resources can't get the same outcomes. That's the level of specificity that needs to be in the policy in order for it to be durable. All of you all may move on to do different things someday off of the board, and Dr. Holman may go on to do something else. Racism and discrimination and marginalization is not going to change in the district overnight. It's not going to change in a year. It might not even change in 3 years. This policy needs to be able to withstand time so that as people come in to interpret it, it drives to the outcome of creating an equitable, inclusive, and anti-racist system. But you have to be specific. If we're not specific in the problem that we're solved, whoever's in office, whoever's in position will interpret it and what they want will get it. And what will happen is those who are already privileged will actually get more of it. Equity will be weaponized and the disparity gaps will be actually the opposite outcome will happen is that the disparity gap will be greater than what you all started. That's what I'm simply asking. I want an equity policy. I believe that you want an equity policy. I even think that we want the same things out of the equity policy. I just need you to write it down on paper more specifically so that all of the students in the district can benefit. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Next, I have Jonah DeForest.
Hi.
Good, we can hear you.
Great. My name is Jonah. Thank you for having me and thank you for all your hard work. I'm a graduate of Lake Washington High School class of 2020. I am very thankful for my time in the Lake Washington School District, but I've also seen the failings of an education that does not center the experiences of those who are marginalized. I have seen the way students of color have been underserved by a curriculum that fails to account for them. When teachers went the extra mile to fill in such gaps, it made all the difference. I believe that recognizing intersectionality will only improve the shape of young people's education. Education is one of the most powerful forces in a person's life and can be used to dismantle white supremacy where so often it has fueled it. Thank you.
Great, thank you for joining us tonight, Jonah. Next, I have Steve Starr.
Thanks for having me. Wish I could be there in person. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you to all the diverse opinions and perspectives that we're hearing from all different sides. I think one of the things that why we have so much confusion around this topic is that our community has not had an opportunity to see the challenges that all the students face within our school district, specifically the BIPOC and minority communities. I do want to thank the school district for showing the video that Joy mentioned earlier. I think that was extremely informative and things I had not heard before, and I think that sort of information being shared so that we can hear those perspectives is important. It's my hope that the district will take this opportunity to learn and then lead in our area not only in transparency in the policy, but also sharing when we have challenges, so that those who aren't aware that these challenges exist can start to understand, and that those experiences can inform the rest of our community. And as we get more informed, we make better decisions. We need to center the voices of those in our community who have not had an opportunity to be heard or have been silenced. We appreciate the voices that have been able to come and share, and the parents of our district feel that this is incredibly important. We gladly elected all of you to help represent not just one, but the interests of all of the children in our district. As many have said before, I think most of us want very similar things, and so often things get confused by misinformation or disinformation. And lastly, I would just ask that no matter what, as we move through this and we make changes, that we all keep talking. Continuing to talk about challenges and continuing to better our communication is how we all become better humans. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Williams, if you can hear me, would you mind turning off your camera? We can, it's still being broadcast, your video is. We don't need to sign out, so I can tell you're walking back to your car and filming. There we go. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, next we have Steve Starr. Oh, all right. Thank you, everyone. Bound to happen. But next we have Renee Ferguson George. And then after Ms. George, we have Devin Stovall. Renee on here. Ms. George, can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Hello.
Hi. Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
Awesome. Thank you. FABS. Do any of you know what that stands for? Anybody?
Yeah.
Family Alliance of Black Student Excellence. We are made up of parents of young Black kings and queens. FABS has been speaking out about the inadequacy of this equity policy for over a year. We have been blamed for slowing down the work, but the truth is we just won't settle for anything but justice for our children and future Lake Washington School District generations. We have been the ones trying to hold the board accountable because this means protecting our children from racism. We do not take this lightly. It has been FABS advocating for years for their children not to be discriminated against and traumatized every time they go to school. It was FABS that did not miss a board meeting during the 2020-2021 school year, even during a pandemic and school closures. As we know, you plan to pass this equity policy tonight that upholds the white supremacy that this school district has been founded on. By ignoring the BIPOC community's recommendations and going forward with this policy, you are failing every Black student that we have been working so hard for 5 years to protect. All the trauma and heartache we've endured while advocating for equality was for nothing. You have failed us. Like I said in my media interview with Como 4, where is the accountability and where is the action? This is a slap in our face. The parents, students, and families of FABS were not invited to contribute to or serve on any part of the panel or process to recruit our next equity director of equity and family engagement. In section 14.6 of this generic and lazy policy, you state that you will ensure a highly qualified and diverse workforce through strategic recruitment, hiring, and retention practices. This gives no regard for community input or community voice. How will you ensure this? If your practices and policies have historically leaned towards systematic oppression and inequality and pushing out the only Black equity director we have ever had. What happened to our last equity director? Where are the exit interviews of the Black educators and families that have fled the district this past year? Where are those those exit interviews that we were promised. As the great Malcolm X once said, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Ms. George. We appreciate it. Next, I have Devin Stovall, and I apologize if I didn't pronounce the last name correctly. I don't see Devin on there anymore. Okay, that is the, sure, list here. Well, I'll see if there's anyone else on our in-person. Is Jim McCoy on? He had signed up to provide in-person public comment, but I do not see that he's logged in. Okay, is there anyone else in virtual attendance tonight who I did not name but has signed on to provide public comment? Okay. And I know we have our video just got rather blurry. We have two students who are providing a presentation tonight. I think they're still signed on. We're going to get that in just a moment as part of our student voice section. So I just wanted to let you know I hadn't forgotten about you. And thank you for staying with us a little later tonight. I guess before we move on, I do want to recognize that the board did receive a significant amount of written comment, particularly around our anti-racism, equity, and inclusion policy. I'm not able to read all of that public comment aloud tonight because of the volume, but I do want to recognize that by my count, we received 73 emails from parents, from students, and from other members of the community on this issue. And thank you for writing and for sharing your voice and helping us develop this policy. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second. Moved by Director Carlson, seconded by Director Bleasner, that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Dr. Coleman, will you please poll the board?
Director Carlson? Yes. Director Sage?
Yes.
Director Bleasner?
Yes.
Vice President Stewart?
Yes.
And President Bob Liberty?
Yes. Dr. Holman, can you please summarize the donations we received in advance of this meeting?
Absolutely. For the August 23rd board meeting, we have donations totaling just over $10,000, with $8,000 coming from our PTSA partners and just over $2,000 coming from private sources. And thank those agencies and groups and private donors for those donations as we launch into the 21-22 school year.
Great. Okay, the first item on the non-consent agenda is our student voice section. And we have a presentation from, well, I understand there's going to be one or two students here tonight introducing the video, but it was a group of students that put it together. And it is on a request to develop goals to reduce carbon emissions. Dr. Holman, could you introduce our students?
Yes, and so if the students want to go ahead and turn their cameras on so we can say hello. We have number one, Harika, an 8th grade student, will introduce the video. Its students are requesting action on climate change, I believe is the name of the video. And she and other students have been working to put this video together on climate change. And why don't you young ladies go ahead and introduce yourselves, introduce the video, and then go ahead and watch that video.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. Hope you all are having a good day. I'm Sachi. I'm a sophomore at Tesla STEM, and I'm a part of the Climate Citizens Lobby youth team. As a group of students who care about the climate, we've taken the initiative to make a video explaining why we want you, the school board, to direct district staff to develop achievable goals to become carbon neutral. Through the partnership of schools, parents, and students, we believe this is possible within a reasonable time frame.
Hello, I'm Harika, and I'm a rising 8th grader at Englewood Middle School. And I just want to say that everyone who participated in this video really cares a lot about creating changes in our community. And we hope that this video helps make a better future for the students of this district. And on behalf of all the students who worked on it, it was great working on this video, and we all wish that you enjoy it. Thank you.
Great. And are you going to show it and share your screen, or should we do that on our end?
I have it open, so I guess I could share my screen.
Just make sure when you're sharing your screen that you select the button that says share video or share audio as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, it says I'm an attendee, so I won't be able to share content or facilitate.
We'll update that for you.
You should have access now to be able to share.
Okay, thank you. Can you see this? Okay.
Well, I don't have the audio.
We don't have the audio though.
Oh dear. Maybe we could try playing it.
Yeah.
Harika, we're not. The audio's not coming through. So Dr. Holman, I think we have the video here. We will try to play it on our end. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I have it. You have it. Hold on 1 minute. We're gonna make this work. We promise. Yeah. Well. I have it. Okay. I'm having trouble getting it loaded on my computer too. Yeah.
Climate change makes me feel really bad and really scared. One thing climate change can do is make the weather really dry. And the dry weather can lead to forest fires. And I have tons of nightmares about forest fires coming to our house. Here's a little bit of what my nightmare was. So everything in our house burned down. The kitchen, my clothes, my dolls, my everything. And yeah, those nightmares made me very anxious.
The way climate change makes me feel is really sad, but also really mad that some people aren't doing anything about it. And sometimes I just wish there was a button or something that I could push just to have everyone chip in and help the Earth and everyone's future. And when I think about it, what would happen if we don't do anything? Think about that.
Sad, because if the climate change continues, then the oceans, coral reefs might die. Already a bunch of them have died. So I want climate change to stop.
Over the last several years, climate change has grown from an idea to a reality for people across the world, leaving many anxious about its effects. The stress of climate change is majorly reflected on us as today's youth. We as students are growing up seeing smoke in the skies and record-breaking temperatures, knowing this will only get worse as we grow up. When you think of your future, it should be full of hope. But that isn't possible when the stress of a dying planet is reflected onto and made your responsibility. Eco-anxiety, a fear of the ecological disasters we are headed into. In our own home state, 57% of teenagers say that climate change made them feel scared, and 52% said it made them feel angry, both rates higher than those among the adults polled. These emotions have clear outcomes, with studies led by Marshall Burke at Stanford showing that a warming climate is going to exacerbate the burden of poor mental health, and ignoring this evidence is going to cause unnecessary harm and anguish for a lot of individuals and families. The same study concluded that hotter than average temperatures increase both suicide rates and depressive language on social media. Climate change is being thrown onto teenagers' shoulders, and the results are agonizing. We need to do better as a society to fix this for the sake of all students globally.
I remember seeing wildfires on the news. It was something I paid little attention to, as I never dreamed to see the impacts of wildfires in real life. Washington was far too north and too cold, that is until recent years. In summer of 2019, the smoke started to reach us in King County. When my lacrosse practices began getting canceled, I started to realize how drastically we in Washington were being affected by the wildfire smoke. Wildfires used to be something only affecting far away, hot places, not something that could impact such a big part of my day-to-day life. With climate change continuing, wildfires are to only get worse, traveling further and further north until it isn't just the smoke affecting us here in King County, but the actual flames themselves. If climate change continues down this path, it's not just wildfire smoke that will fill our skies. Our planet will continue to warm, with the heat trapping greenhouse gases causing more people to suffer from respiratory conditions as well as heat-related illnesses. We must act now to reverse our course. I'd like to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Chief Seattle. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children.
Hello, my name is Harika and I'm a rising 8th grader at Englewood Middle School. The buses used in our school district are often the first glaring global warming contributors students are exposed to before they potentially even know what climate change is. When I was beginning elementary school, I remember seeing smoke and being surrounded by the overpowering smoke emissions. Over time, though, it no longer surprised me as I grew to expect it, and just like that, climate change contributors were being normalized at just ages 5 or 6. I had no idea about climate change back then, but even with the knowledge I have today, I don't know what I could have done differently back then. If I had known about how emissions impact our environment, I would have tried to walk or ride to school. But without action from the district, these small actions that I thought were making a big difference would have been in vain, as the buses still would have been running to pick up students who were unable to ride or walk to school. The diesel buses used in our school district would have to attain 12 miles per gallon to be on par with electric buses. This, however, is not realistic, as in the average diesel bus gets only 4.8, not even 5 miles per gallon. If we take the time and think deeper into maintaining and running the various programs and buildings used within the school district, a variety of other glaring greenhouse gas emitters come up, including fracking, energy sourcing, and resource conservation. While electric buses would be a wonderful first step for our district to be more efficient and environmentally friendly, there are so many other improvements the district can take, whether or not electric buses are achievable. From what I've heard about our district, LWSD is about preparing students to be future ready. But currently, we as your students will have a disastrous future no school could ever prepare us for if we don't do something about global warming. Thank you.
Does setting goals for becoming carbon neutral seem unrealistic? Many other districts are already taking steps to reduce climate change, so we can too. 2 years ago, the Mercer Island School District passed a resolution to improve environmental stewardship, setting out specific actions to be taken by their district. Last February, the Seattle School District committed to switching to 100% clean renewable energy by 2040. On the other side of the state, school districts are also working on this. Spokane Public Schools recently started a student advisory council on climate change for students entering 5th through 12th grade. This council will serve as a wonderful example of how to get students more involved with an issue that directly impacts them. Even at higher education levels, schools such as UCLA, with about 45,000 students, are taking steps to minimize their environmental impact with zero waste initiatives and by working directly with the students in leadership.
With the recent IPCC report predicting an increase of 3 degrees in Celsius by 2100, taking action to reduce carbon emissions is even more urgent than we originally thought. Therefore, we as your students want you, the school board, to direct district staff to develop achievable goals to become carbon neutral by a specific and reasonable date, with milestones and in partnership with schools, parents, and student leaders. We are putting our trust in you to see district-wide action taken by your board on this issue that will affect every single one of your students' future lives.
Okay, great. I want to recognize and thank all the students who participated in that. That was it's informative, impressive, and persuasive. So thank you so much for taking the time to put together something that we could play tonight as part of our student voice section. Thank you.
I'd also like to recognize the fact that it's summer, and so kids had to come together in their own way, in their own, yes, phones, or maybe that's not cool, maybe it was social media, I'm not sure, but it's much appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great. The next item on the non-consent agenda is the second reading of OE 14 entitled Anti-Racism, Equity, and Inclusion. Dr. Holman, could you start us off on the presentation?
Yes. Pull this up. And the board did, as part of, I met with Director Sage and Director Leisner, and we did have some strike-through language. I asked for that to be updated in our current agenda because that strike-through language is not currently in Board Docs. I can pull that up and share publicly if we want to talk through that after walk through a few slides.
I guess real quick, if I may, before you're too far away from the public comment, I do want to recognize Diane Jenkins, who in the matter of minutes was able to get everyone who was here tonight, who was wanting to sign in, a link to Zoom to participate tonight. Is truly a marvel that she was able to accomplish that. And thank you, Diane.
Yes, absolutely. And so tonight is the board's next step in your work in Operational Expectation 14, anti-racism, equity, and inclusion in education. And so I just wanted to walk through a few pieces. At our last board meeting, you heard, I'll say, a pretty lengthy overview of some of my thoughts around indicators related to the policy language. Those were examples, knowing that there is work ahead. And so just want to go ahead and review just a little bit about the governance and then some of the next steps around this policy as the board tonight considers the adoption. And so it's important to note that in coherent governance, the model of governance that this board operates within, you govern through a very clear set of policies. These are policies that are always paid attention to through a monitoring process, but the board also evaluates and takes action when policies need to be updated given current conditions or current changes in thinking. And so there are 5 substantive portions of the board's policies, each of which has a different role in the governance of the board. One, your governance culture policies really is kind of that the interactions that occur within the board. Operational governance policies, really those are your operational policies as a board. The board superintendent relations, that is the relationship that the board has with me and vice versa. And then the operational expectations that we're talking about tonight really is about the parameters of the board's values that I am to operate within as superintendent in leading the school district. And then the results policies, really kind of that core set of expectations for the organization in the achievement for students. Another portion of coherent governance is the board hires a superintendent whom you have delegated operational decisions. That keeps the board setting that aspirational target for the school district, identifying the results that are expected, the operational expectations, the parameters that we operate within to achieve those results policies. And then when we think about the policy cycle, so we've talked through this slide a few different times, but it's always important to note that whether we're starting with the review of a policy or an adoption of a new policy, we go through this cycle of review and analysis, adoption, and then as superintendent, my job is to bring back interpretation and indicators, and that really is a back and forth between the board and me to make sure that we're in alignment with what is expected. We go, once we've agreed to the interpretation and the indicators that would be used for monitoring, after a period of time, I would go through a formal monitoring process, bring back data and evidence to the board related to your policy. Through that process, you give me feedback, kind of key indicators to be looking for, shifts that the board is thinking about, and we go back through that cycle. And that's an annual process that we go through, ensuring that the board has information in terms of the operational expectations policy. The board has been at work for quite a while in thinking about this policy and the work that you've done. And so to date, we've held a number of study sessions to discuss OE 14, which didn't have a title to begin with. And so it really started off as a discussion around the equity policy, thinking about the board's values, taking that then out to community linkage sessions, hearing from community, and then later on actually receiving feedback around a draft policy that the board took out to the community. The board has engaged in professional reading, engaged in professional development through the Puget Sound ESD, race and equity team there. And 2 weeks ago on August 9th, the board did hold a first reading of OE 14. Since that point in time, I know the board has received email communication. I know you've been in discussion with community members. Tonight you heard feedback through public comment. And as President LaLiberty indicated, I believe over 72 written public comments, many of which are related to OE14. And so you have been through this process to get to where you are today. And then after adoption of a policy, I just want to be transparent about what my next steps are specific to this policy. This is a unique policy that the board will be adopting. I think about all of the public comment we've heard, the community interest. I appreciate a number of the comments stating we all want probably the same thing, and I appreciate that, because when you think about all of us wanting each and every student in Lake Washington to be successful, each and every student in Lake Washington to have the resources and supports to reach the high results that the board expects us to set forth for our students, I agree with that. And so you can see here, first and foremost is gathering a diverse work group to help provide context and feedback that is both internal and external stakeholders to work with me around the interpretation and development of indicators. I need to ensure that there are staff there to help in that process, because they have a level of expertise around kind of the internal workings of our data systems, of the work that we've done to provide context. But there are voices that can help me think about interpretation of this policy so that it does meet the robust standards that I know the board has for this policy, and that I have as expectations for the organization. And so my guess is probably end of September, beginning of October, we'll be able to bring something back to the board in terms of interpretations and indicators. And so just that's the context I wanted to provide. And Eric, do you want me to screen share the strike through language that we worked on, so we can provide context around those changes, or is there?
You know what? I think we should start with a broader conversation about process and what to do next. So tonight, the idea was we would bring the policy back for a second reading and potential adoption. We're here in a different space tonight. There's a lot of people who wanted to talk to us tonight that maybe didn't have an opportunity to do so, because not everyone can get onto Teams in a matter of minutes. So I just wanted to put that into the room and inquire if anyone if anyone wants to move to continue adoption of this, now would be an appropriate time to do that, or has any further comments on that.
I would move that we put this off until we can have a real meeting with real input from the public, in person, I should say, I'm sorry, to give those people who have shown such an interest and have so much at stake in this policy, as we all do, be there. To do otherwise, I think would be very disingenuous for all those who worked so hard on this policy. That said, I think we could also go ahead and have look through some of the language and still keep on moving. I don't want to stand still, because Lord knows we can't afford to.
Okay. So I guess that was a motion. I guess that I'll take that as a motion. I will take it as a motion to keep the item on the agenda for discussion tonight, but the board will, I guess, if the motion is to postpone adoption until the fall, postpone any adoption of any policy until the following meeting, until our next meeting at the earliest. Is there a second for that motion? Any comments, questions?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. So there's a motion by Director Stewart. The motion is that we keep the item on the agenda for discussion tonight, but the board will not adopt anything tonight, and the earliest we would adopt anything is our next meeting. Any discussion, questions, comments?
I think that's resonating.
Yeah.
My only concern about not adopting is the disruption that we had to the meeting tonight. When will we be able to have this discussion? And I want to hear from everybody that came. It looks like they were prepared and they're ready to go, and they have a vested interest in seeing this policy through. How can we ensure that happens while also not being stagnant?
Yep. I don't have an answer. That is the central tension of trying to hold in-person public meetings under these conditions when there are a couple individuals who are refusing to comply. It puts us in a impossible situation.
I mean, with the mask mandate.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you for giving that precise data. Yes, I agree. I have the same concern. It's important that we adopt something before or near the start of the upcoming academic year, because it's important that we have a monitoring process in place for this current academic year, so that we can monitor compliance and also revisit if the policy is not what we want it to be, that we have an opportunity to revisit it again before next year too. I think that we're still, if we postpone this and any adoption till the next meeting, I think we're still on track for indicators in October, which would still provide us an academic year. So I would be comfortable not adopting tonight as well.
So in other words, since Dr. Holman wasn't going to have his interpretation or indicators to run past us until October, we aren't losing ground on monitoring the policy because we can't monitor it without the indicators and the interpretation.
I think that's right. No worries. I might use the point here too. And I want to echo the sentiment too that we want to make sure that anyone who wants to participate in this process, it has the opportunity to do so before we adopt that. That probably hasn't happened at this point because of tonight.
So, and in light of the unfortunately unpreserved earlier this evening, the group who have taken the time to engage and are really trying to provide us with that feedback, I don't want them to be at the mercy of somebody who doesn't understand how to wear a small piece of cloth for 3 minutes. Towards that end, I would hope that we can provide beforehand to this group, if they can communicate to Diane Jenkins, such that we have 4 people who wish to speak to us on this. I would like prefer to see them eye to eye. I am willing to see them eye to video if they have the time to be ready for it, rather than having to worry about finding Wi-Fi in our parking lot. So that's just something I would suggest, because if we make it, put them at the mercy of a certain community, we may not ever achieve closure. I want to give them their voice and their chance to be heard at an appropriate and timely way. So hopefully next time, yes, I would prefer to do it in person. If we can find a way that works, that is wonderful. But to actually communicate with those who took the time tonight to show up, to give their comments, to provide their feedback, have a backup plan ready for them should we have continued disruptions.
Yeah, I agree. We will try to get that. We'll talk about that and have something in place that could be communicated out in advance of the meeting as well. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, Director Stewart.
Yeah, I think within several days we could talk to a number of the folks within our communities to get their feedback as how important it is to them bring the same space or to get their comments heard. I'd rather have it in a way that is organized, like you say, and not have to depend on a weak Wi-Fi signal from the parking lot. It worked, but Lord knows how many times it worked. So I just assume we plan ahead. That said, it doesn't have to be executed tonight. It can be decided how we'll do it within a few days.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comments, Director Billington?
So I'm just thinking through this. There were some key points, I think, that have already been given through public comment and through the written comments we received. And I'm not sure we have done the due diligence on that first page, that is often what's spoke about. So I will say I have focused much more so on the superintendent directive as well as the points. But I do think that front page is what I'm hearing quite a bit about and how that is written and the pieces behind it. So I do think there's some work we could do there to look at that and have some clear conversation of what we can do there in which to express more of those thoughts or more of the concerns that I'm hearing coming from that. I do think there are some, actually just had an email that came through in regards to the superintendent directive. At the top, I will admit, I actually think the change we made to it made it a little weaker than it should have been, and I think we should change it to something else to strengthen it a little more to other components. So I think there is some work we can do as collecting that other, but we have a lot we can still work with as we get the addition. I don't want to say we haven't got anything, because we do have quite a bit, and I'm not sure that, I mean, I am thinking of comments that we haven't listened or heard. I think there might be, I know there are some key pieces that I keep hearing: accountability, taking responsibility within the policy, and a clear statement of pieces. And how do we do that potentially? This is a new step to our policies. We've never done this piece. I don't have an answer. I just know that in listening, this is what I was hearing from a lot of people coming through, and I would hate to say I need to wait till I hear it again, because I think there's stuff we can work with now as we add that to it, and potentially feed back some of that as we go through it.
Okay.
And I am concerned of postponing it to wait for an in-person concept. That from tonight enough to say that we're going to wait to an in-person meeting, I would be concerned about, just because of some, that might mean we don't move forward at all.
Understood. And I think the interest I heard expressed was not necessarily in person, but just making sure that there was an opportunity for those to address the board on this to do so. We wouldn't necessarily have that tonight because of the shift from in-person to remote. It doesn't mean that it has to necessarily be in person. There are other ways that we can provide the ability for people to advocate. I want to get to trying to use or pivot again. I'm going to pivot to what you just talked about, but there's a motion pending, and I just want to make sure that we address that so it's clear for the community tuning in. So what I'm hearing from the board is general support for the motion, which was to continue discussing and talking, working through, maybe doing some more work on the policy tonight, but not just making clear that well, the motion was to not adopt anything tonight. So I will, I guess, call for a vote on Director Stewart's motion, which was to bring this back forward for I guess we'll call it a third reading and potential adoption at our next meeting on September 13th.
I think it would be a second reading.
A second reading? Okay, thank you. It will still be a second reading and potential adoption on September 13th, and we can then continue to discuss it tonight. But I want to vote on that motion now. So is the motion clear to everyone?
To table it until next time.
Yes, thank you. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, so we can continue. We're not going to be adopting anything tonight. We can continue working through this, and I'd be curious if,
sorry.
Real quick, I'd be curious of people's thoughts on process too, for how to go about this tonight, because I had not thought through this, that we were going to end up here tonight, so I don't have a clear idea for process. So I'd be curious to anyone in the room. And then Director Sage and Director Stewart.
I just wanted to reference Director Leesner's points that we haven't done this before in the policy creation, and by that I think you mean the value statement that we're making at the beginning. So the process we're going through to adopt this policy is the process we go through to adopt any policy. We usually adopt it, and then the superintendent defines terms and gives his interpretation to see if it's what we were expecting, and then gives indicators of compliance by which we will measure him and whether or not he has succeeded. But the new piece is that we're putting a board value statement at the very beginning of the policy to kind of let the community know where we stand. So that's the one new piece that I wanted to make sure was clear.
Absolutely. Thank you. Director Stewart?
I think one of the comments we heard very clearly this evening, to add on to the points that Sherry had made, was that we need to add definitions of anti-racism, equity, and inclusion, so that decades from now, people will know what the intent was in 2021. I don't think that's a difficult task. It's just a matter of having composing it. And I think that will go a long way to define our intent. Because if there's any question about our intent, that should, I would hope, put it to rest.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, or frankly, at this point, I'm searching for ideas from the board for a process to continue working on this, and then eventually bring it back on the 13th.
So along those lines, this is fairly short, but we are trying to find any significant changes that need to be made prior to adoption. That's something where I think that there are a good number of them that we can tease out of the feedback we have been getting from the community. As Director Wheeler pointed out, there are some that are in the front half of this. I personally maybe it's with 73 emails to read, each of us winds up aggregating a slightly different piece of each of them. I've got one piece of the preamble to the directives, but I don't think we need to do a full rehash, but I do think that we can do a few important things tonight to address major issues that have been raised by the community, and hopefully make this tighter as we go forward with trying to adopt. All of that said, I still personally believe that the most important thing we can do is get something adopted so that we can move forward with the interpretation and the administrative policies that stem from that. So I don't want to continue tinkering ad nauseum, but tonight I am very happy to tinker. I've got one piece I want to tinker with, but I'll let someone else go first. So.
No, you go first.
Oh, I really don't want to go first, but okay, it's my own darn fault. So in listening to community feedback, there's one piece of it that resonated for me as, well, gosh, that's interesting. There's strong support around equitable opportunity. But what does equitable outcomes mean? And that's raised a lot of anxiety in me. And I think we could do ourselves a real favor by defining what we meant, or even just changing equitable outcomes to something along the lines of to close persistent performance gaps for historically marginalized student groups. That there's concern that, one could assure equitable outcomes by getting everyone the same grade. That's vague enough. And the other piece of it is, if you actually read into the superintendent will, the only thing that speaks to outcomes is 14.10. All the others are about the opportunities. And 14.10 says collect, disaggregate, analyze, and utilize data to identify and address inequity. And so this is something that I think our intent is correct, that we want to close historic gaps that our predecessors have failed to close for decades. But that stating it as to ensure equitable outcomes for students causes unnecessary anxiety in the community. And to find a better way to phrase that around closing these historic gaps, it would be advantageous for all of us.
I think it makes sense, and it occurred to me a good process way of going about doing this. Dr. Holman, I assume we take notes of where we coalesce on a change, and then we can do kind of working group. If that working group would be interested in continuing to be that working group and bringing something back forward. Okay, then shake your heads no. And I do want to discuss Chris's point.
I'm looking at achievement by groups, and so I wonder a little bit about the idea of individual students versus groups of students.
Right.
And I see the idea for individual outcomes, but for groups, we have, year after year, not just in Lake Washington, but across the country, our Black African American students, for example, in literacy and language in grade 2, are not performing at the same level as other groups. And so there's a belief there that you can go one way or the other. One belief is, as a group, they're not going to perform as well, or as a system, we're not doing something to allow that group to perform as well. And I think I go with the latter. And so I just worry a little bit if we say, well, we're not going to try to make sure that as a group, we're exploring all the factors that are contributing to these outcomes we're seeing and try to adjust those, as opposed to, like, every kid is going to get what they need and we're going to continue to work to make sure every kid's growing. So I think there's some nuance there that I think we have to be careful of. If we start saying, well, you know, we're not going to expect Black, African American, or Hispanic students to have the same outcomes as a group, I think we're going down the wrong road, as opposed to individual students need differentiated supports, and, you know, each kid is going to have different growth and different.
I agree with you fully. So go
To the
on.
directive piece, though, I think we might be missing the systems piece that you just brought up. I think that might not be as clearly stated in there
Yes.
to do that.
Yes. And I think that's what's giving rise to this anxiety in the community, that we are trying to speak to these systems. That is the intent here. And how do you make sure that it isn't open to interpretation when we say equitable outcomes? Our intent is to have equitable systems that allow for us to close these gaps. Even if they've been making progress for 20 years, 50 years, there's still persistent gaps. And yeah, sorry, I was about to go into the only other thing I actually.
Yeah, but let's finish with
Yes,
this
let's
one.
finish
so
this
that
one,
we
exactly.
don't- I think your point is very important. I think that's what's missing from that piece, and it's the systemic piece that we're speaking to. And that we aren't speaking to an individual component, we are speaking to how our practices, policies, or anything have driven potential inequities within the system. So we want to get rid of those and shift those, and we're doing that through setting this up.
So
Is
that
that fair?
results in equitable systems. Is that what you're saying?
No, I haven't figured out what to say yet. I'm still trying to
Well-
get around, but I appreciated the system concept.
And that, I think, is the key here, is to break it into a piece around equitable opportunities for individual students and equitable systems across groups of students, so that we can close gaps. It's not about making sure every student gets the same grade. It's about closing these gaps. And that's what I want to break into individual students versus the systems for the overall population of students.
I agree. I do care about the outcomes for, I don't mean to say you don't. I know you do.
I care about,
I know you
it's
do.
just that I don't want to say.
But I do care about the outcomes. And I do think that's important, that's a focus of this policy. It's not just putting in the systems and that we care, and ultimately that's our job, is to provide outcomes for our students. That's the job of the district. And I think, yes, however, maybe we could phrase it differently. But reality is, I'm comfortable saying, I do want to see equitable outcomes for our students.
And that's where I'm trying to find a way that if you just say equitable outcomes,
yeah,
one could also interpret that to say we want to bring down our Asian student performance.
Yes.
And so
maybe a pretty torturous interpretation, but yes.
One that is in those 73 emails repeatedly. So that anxiety is real, and trying to find a way to defuse it. I'm not saying that that's what we meant. I'm saying that there's a way this can be read, and I would like to find a way that we state it that it can't. It's torturous trying to, but equitable opportunities for students and closing to close the gaps by improving student performance. It's these strange little clauses one could put in that say, we're going to lift all those to high performance, as opposed to we're going to make all performance equal. And that's a hard piece of language to put together.
Director Stewart?
I think there's some phrases that we can move away from. There are flashpoints for various groups, and unfortunately, these terms have been hijacked for their own use, whether it's equitable outcome versus equitable opportunity. I think the better we use our own words. To Chris's point, we wanted to raise everybody to perform better. And so if we were to unfortunately have to rely on those hot phrases, I think we will be doing ourselves major damage in the long run, because it will continue a debate that is not what we intended.
Equitable opportunities for all students and excellent outcomes for all students.
Well, I think we need to.
I'm sorry, I know that's like cheerleader talk, but nonetheless, I'm just trying to.
We need to get away from opportunities and outcomes.
Yeah.
And equitable, because those are the buzzwords that have been hijacked, and
or we need to define them very
well, then we define them.
Yeah.
We give our own definition to make sure there's no question in anyone's mind what we intend. I still think we run the risk though of having no one listen to the definition.
So given the amount of typing that's been done over there, directly, I suspect you've got a thought on this.
All I'm trying to do is capture the comments
Oh,
that are
sorry.
Here, I was hoping you had a solution.
Okay, I mean, I have a solution.
Yeah.
I have an idea, I don't know if it's a great solution. I'll just say again, I'm, the only place I see this, that language even appear, is in the, I'll call it the prelude to the directive to the superintendent, preamble.
Yeah.
If the concern is really just the precise language, we could, we can make it negative, anti-negative. So we could just redraft it to ensure, or to guard, to stop inequitable opportunities and inequitable outcomes. Because, I don't know, if that's the real concern, we could just, instead of ensuring equitable opportunities and equitable outcomes, it could be stop inequitable opportunities and equitable outcomes. I don't know if that actually changes anything, or if it's just words and
I
things,
think it does, just because what we see in the academic gap, I see correlation to the opportunity gap. So how do we address that all students need the opportunity in order to succeed at high levels? Because that is a gap area.
Well, I think to Mike's point earlier, when he used the example of the second grade reading level, that we've seen this year after year after year, but what we haven't done is then go back to say, okay, what in our system that in pre-K, K, and 1 led to that gap in 2? And how do we correct it? How do we work to correct it? It's not going to be flipping a light switch. That's a little bit too Pollyannish. I believe that we can work that. We can find out, okay, what have we done wrong? Let's do a rehash. Where we went wrong. I'm failing the word, but anyway, you see where I'm going, Mike.
Yeah, if I could add to that too, I was kind of thinking, I think, Chris, what you're talking about is that there's been some approaches, like say graduation, for example, and so lower the bar so everybody can graduate, right? And so that's a concern, right? That everybody gets the same outcome, but we're not producing students that are ready to go out into the world and write and read and interact.
Yeah.
The other side of that coin, though, we recognize, I was just reading a great article about how there's differential treatment of students based on their color by discipline. Like you experience a student being loud who's black and you send them to the office. And when a student who's being loud, you say, well, it's just a boy being a boy, right? And so there's a differential in treatment that is causing a different outcome for black students than there is for white students. And so if we can start recognizing that and start addressing those biases, that's the opportunity, right? And that allows students to rise up to their potential, because I think right now what we're doing in a lot of cases as educators is we're holding some students behind because of biases that are unexplored or even that we're aware of. And so I think that's kind of the rub. It's not to lower the standard and everybody gets through and everybody graduates and there's no quality assurance. And you have to recognize, if you just see year after year, certain groups are not getting the same achievement outcomes. We have to own some of that, I think. So I think that's
right. I mean, that's a systems problem. That's not on the student.
So could you add into the directive to the superintendent, and I don't know quite where to put it, but the superintendent shall identify and eliminate discriminatory beliefs, practice, and prejudices within our school system.
Yeah.
To ensure equitable opportunities in our students. That puts a system piece into it a bit more. It's not good, but it at least starts to get to it. Otherwise, I feel like it's a little. I'm actually, I would agree. I have no problem in equitable outcomes across our groups. We've been speaking about this for over 10 years. We've been working through these, when we do our results monitoring. Graduation rates has been huge as we look through these. How do we bring, and how does our system then address those gaps that are in place, and how do we reevaluate? I think a lot of the work Matt doing and doing the teamwork is a lot, working to focus on those pieces, the training we're doing. So how do we call that out?
So the draft that was in our packet, not the strike through language, has the initial language that we're eliminating these things that result in, not to ensure. And, you know, if we're talking about doing things we can control that cause these problems, that is really what our focus should, I think our focus is on. And to me, that addresses potentially the concerns about, I don't know, Mike's example of you could lower the requirements, which we're not going to do, just to be clear, for graduation. I think I gets at that a little bit. I don't have a good, I don't have a good answer here. And I understand the concern. I just don't feel all that acutely when I read our policy that it's not a concern to me. But I can appreciate that it was for many number of parents who wrote to us.
It needs to be defined, and maybe that's one of the terms we need to define.
Right, and it would be defined as part of the superintendent's interpretation as the board would ultimately approve.
But before we get to his interpretation, we need to set up definitional some parameters for it, so people will see that it's coming. I mean, there's an intent, and it will be enforced. And you see where I'm going?
I do. I don't know that I agree, though. I think that our process for policy is that the board drafts a policy, and then we work with the superintendent to define what those policies mean to the superintendent, and then we approve those, and then there's how it's going to be operated. And I understand the concern with this particular policy, but that work will be done as part of our process.
As was pointed out earlier, this is really new soil we're plowing. We've never done a preamble, if you will. We have never had a statement before the policy. And so I think we have some latitude to create such a preamble that will ensure, or not ensure, but will go as far as we can to help parents and students know that this is our intent, and that we're setting it up so that when the superintendent comes back with his or her interpretations, that there is no question in anyone's mind that this is our intent as well.
I 100% agree with that. To me, that's the value of the board statement at the top, is to make clear in the policy how what our values are, and that provides direction to the superintendent of what we would agree to as part of any certain interpretation. So yeah, I agree with that. And I also agree with the sentiment that perhaps we have more work to we do have more work to do on that. Any other thoughts?
Well, I do have another point that I want to propose some language actually.
Please.
So at present, we've got furthermore, the superintendent shall identify and eliminate discriminatory beliefs, practices, and prejudices to ensure equitable opportunities and opportunities. That's the last clause, equitable opportunities. I think ensuring equitable opportunities for students is fantastic. Yes. I would like to add a clause, ensure equitable systemic treatment of students. That's very clear that we're asking the system to treat students equitably. It's not just about providing equitable opportunities. And then finally, to close performance gaps for historically marginalized groups. That's still talking about the outcomes, but it's putting in our words. That's really where we started this. And I think it helps get away from a buzzword that's currently got a significant population of our constituents' words. Does that, I mean, it's basically just three clauses, one about equitable opportunities, one about equitable treatment, and finally about closing performance gaps. And that way, all the meaning is there, but we've avoided something that is an ambiguity. It's not intentional, it's just causing anxiety. And if we can end run that anxiety before we adopt it, I think that's in our best interest.
Couldn't you close performance gaps in the same fashion though? When the same argument holds?
But this is the beauty of it, is that now when we're talking about closing performance gaps, that's something that is much harder to say, oh, well, you obviously mean just give everybody an A. That we're actually asking him to close these gaps on the basis of making all students have the opportunity to excel, rather than close them by changing the yards.
All students have the opportunity to excel. It's very different
Yes.
than closing gaps. So it's,
Yeah.
I don't think it changes anything to say outcomes are closing gaps. I just don't think there's a difference between them. But, yeah.
Chris, do you have that written down?
I do.
Could you,
I will turn it into an electronic version and send it to you all before the evening's
great, I appreciate it.
I'd like to,
Yes.
I'd like to marinate on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm glad we're actually gonna have the opportunity to have another meeting, so I wanna think about it.
So we did make a suggested change on the directive of the superintendent, the very first. The superintendent shall establish and maintain a culture of high expectations for students and to drive inclusive culture. I agreed with it at the time that we did it and thought, now I'm not 100% sure that I actually think it might water down the policy. I think it holds one piece, that's the component of high expectation, but we lose all the other components behind it. The inclusiveness, the safe, a place where students can thrive, any student, and it focuses only on the high expectation. I think that was my concern as I started to think about that a little bit.
What about inclusive culture and high expectations?
Potentially.
I think we're missing one component that we've actually, we put ourselves on the academic, and maybe this is just another point I'll come up later, but the issue of feeling safe in the school environment needs to be very clear. The intent of the district to have a system in which every student feels, for lack of a better term, at home at school, that they don't have a fear of walking into a classroom because of a situation. I mean, the only fear one should have is that you didn't prepare well enough for a test. Lord knows that was always mine. But still, the idea that there should not be a worry that if I'm going into Mr. Smith's class or Miss Jones' class, that, I'm just going to shut up and sit down and keep my head low. Because that's no way to learn.
I am fine with the proposed revision that's brought to the meeting tonight. I think it's yeah, I don't know. I find it. I can argue both ways. We can put both words in there.
That was Sandra's statement.
Why not?
Roll it up higher so we can see.
Here, you can do it mine.
There you go.
There we go, thank you. Bless you.
Maybe two more words there. It could be an inclusive culture and a culture of high expectations, and then it's a little bit feeling out, but it also has both concepts in there. No, that was my drafting.
I mean, the other piece is maybe we just need to say what we mean.
That'd be nice talk. Sorry.
Which is,
Well,
I think there's a goal.
yes, that we have high standards, that every student should have opportunities to reach those high standards, and that ultimately we expect the system to get all students to that high standard.
And to adapt and change as needed in which to address those.
Right, and that's the system piece, is always, so I think that's why we put high expectations is because we were trying to say that it's about rigor, it's about achieving, we talked about the term excellence. Chris, we debated that term and, there's some baggage with that term that we discussed as well. So.
So what do the rest of you think? Like Matt, Barbara, Sally?
That is not a bad idea. This was a great question.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't thinking that. It's on that side.
I think there's some things that you're hearing. There's a concept called targeted universalism that I heard in the public comments. And that is, yes, the easiest way to kind of convey that is like a rising tide lifts all boats. And you heard constituents talk about that until we attend to the needs and experiences of our Black students, that we're truly not going to have equitable outcomes. And that by doing so, the concept of intersectionality is then going to actually benefit other groups of students who are disenfranchised or marginalized in some way throughout our schools. And so that concept, that I believe some of our constituents are looking at this and say that they don't see that necessarily reflected here. And right, we use terms like each and all, but that the unique experience for Black students isn't necessarily reflected in this policy. So I think that's something that for us to wrestle with. And I know that as a board, we've been talking a lot about the concepts of intersectionality through that. So I think there's certainly that piece, and then the definition of looking at like what does defining for ourselves, what does an anti-racist system look like is another one that I've heard in the public comments that feels like there's an opportunity to be further defined. And that's been consistent with the past as people have commented on this. So those are two things that I've been listening to and trying to figure out, but I'd say that's not necessarily only being able to provide you with a good recommendation of how to improve that, but that's certainly some for us through the comments that I've been in.
Thank you.
I think the thing that comes to mind for me is how different constituents are showing up in the conversation. And you hear from the Asian community that they feel as if certain words are not taken out, that their students then are being marginalized, or the treatment of racism is being perpetrated on them. And so you have fractions of our community that are really vying against each other. Siri, I heard you say that a portion of this we've never done before in terms of writing the value statement. And I wonder if there is opportunity for having somebody who has helped boards through this process before in the conversation. And so I think of some people who have done DEI work with boards in developing policy and statement and guiding through just these types of conversations. And so that's where my head is.
Thank you.
So I guess let's keep the conversation going about who's around the policy with their ideas and kind of free flowing. I'm wondering.
You're gonna throw a study session in.
Yeah, is that I feel like we need another study session before the next board meeting. Just on this topic.
Have we done remotely? I think people can log on and watch.
I think so. I don't see any reason to not. That would be fantastic. And just, we're 9:30. Let's have it. I think that's probably what we need to do. Instead of, how does everyone feel about that?
I think we need to have specific goals for our study session.
Ooh, that's good.
And then I think it will be productive. I don't want it to just be us ruminating.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have some concrete goals for that.
In the interest of efficiency and at the same time comprehensiveness, if we were to do a study session, each of us should bring the one biggest unresolved concern that we're hearing from the community. And we can hopefully hash through those items. And that's, we can keep mining this over and over, but there's, like I said, I only had 2 coming in to this evening. And it's something, my second is not one that requires language, so I can forget that. That's one where it's more communication with the community. But it's something where I think the goal would be for me to finish a study session, a final study session on this, feeling like we've actually not only listened to, but done what we can to incorporate what we hear. With the acknowledgement that the 70+ emails, there's a lot of conflicting advice. It's too specific, it's not specific enough, it's too important for my group to not be in the center, too important for the other group. I don't want to have the marginalization of those things. I mean, there are many good comments, but we cannot possibly address them all. So really, this is just to earnestly and honestly for us to say that we did our best to listen to the committee, and at the same time, move forward with something like a pass something on the ground back to us. Does that seem reasonable?
That sounds pretty good to me. Anyone else have any thoughts on that?
I think there's a number of folks that we've heard from tonight that we feel us know, or at least have been familiarity with, as well as some of the web writers from their comments that we could reach out to and say, okay, let's sit down, let's get some concrete ideas on what really, what is not clear enough. Tell me 3 things we can work on them, or 5 things, whatever it is, and let's sit down and hash it out with them to something that we can bring back. That's what I was thinking of doing with several of the folks that we were talking with tonight, and a few folks that been in touch with me earlier, to say, okay, we now have the time to sit down. What specifically do you want us to address? Not saying everybody's wish list is going to be accommodated, but we're going to do our damn best to make sure we have a good policy as a result of our conversations.
Okay.
We'll never be able to put what every person wants into this policy. So I want to be very careful that we're just not inviting people to lobby harder against other groups. And I don't know how we accomplish that.
I'm just asking for specificity from them. When someone says it's not clear enough, or it's not this enough, or it's too much that, okay, tell me specifically what needs to happen to this sentence to make it more decisive, clearer, as opposed to just giving me that more of this type of comment, oh, it's too weak, it's too strong, it's too whatever. I want to know exactly what we're talking about, what will make it, in their minds, stronger. What will make it better.
In the communication we have received, we do have several emails that do have very specific items that could be done and which to do. There's been specific pieces along to incorporating much more strength around race and anti-racism and what does that mean and how to build that in. That has been a strong one. You saw that play out in multiple places. And so perhaps there's a mining of that information. What are specifics that have been said and how are we paying attention to that in some regard? And is there commonality we can pull from that? I mean, the accountability piece, to me, that much of that comes through our monitoring report. So even with that piece, I think that's the next step of our process. So that fits, and I think the process that John has put forward in regards to having a group of people to work with in which to create that is fabulous. And being able to keep that conversation going, to be able to drive those indicators and pieces. I think that's a big key thing. So I think that concern, I think we address through our process. The strength of language is the piece I think we have to consider where we want to go with that as a board.
I also like Joy's suggestion that and I have someone who can help put it all together, who has been down this road many times and knows, perhaps has already responded to a lot of these issues. I don't mind putting another voice in the ring as a pro here, to see what I think.
But my concern with that is, I do think absolutely. And we will not be, I think the upshot of that is to be very unlikely to be able to adopt a policy in the next 12 months. You know, I guess I'll just say that I am ultimately comfortable adopting a policy that's not perfect and that I know not to be perfect. Because I know that this board is committed to this work and we'll keep working at it until we get it as close as we can. And so, you know, that idea, I think, is something, we have an extended study session in March of every year. And that's an opportunity for us to revisit or continue to look at this work. You know, so that's an idea. That's going to be a good time to have some concentrated time to, if we've lived with the policy for a little bit, seen the indicators and reasonable interpretations, taking our thought, look at it. But I have a strong interest in having something adopted this next month. So I think Director Carlson's idea of having, I didn't hear, it seems like everyone was okay with the idea of another study session to continue this work. And I think Director Carlson's idea of we all try to bring forward 1 to 2 focus areas for the policy, and that would be probably at least it's a framework. I don't have a better idea. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. So let's, I think tonight's not the best night for trying to look at calendars and finding a date. That might do that. So let's try to do that tomorrow, and we'll set a date and get it on the calendar. And probably in the evening, and we can do it remotely. That might actually lend itself even better to sharing screens and people working on language from too, so that could work well.
I'll Diane reach out tomorrow.
Okay.
Some potential.
Okay. And we captured sort of before we move on to the next topic tonight, we're not going to adopt this. We're going to have another study session with the idea of them bringing this back forward for a second reading and potential adoption at our September 13th meeting. Before we do move on, does anyone else have any additional comments, questions, thoughts for tonight?
It's after 9.
It's
getting hard.
I know it's getting hard.
Just one closing comment on the topic. There are enough people who are marginally unhappy with us on both sides, and I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable with where we're at. So if I'm getting pilloried for being too racist and not racist, no, it's or anti-racist. Too anti-racist and not anti-racist. Sorry, that's what I meant. Anyway, it's anyway, I feel like we're close and we can do something. There will be much distressiveness when we actually have the nerve to adopt something that will actually let's get moving.
Yeah.
To do the next step.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? We're going to do, does anyone need a break? We have, the next item on the agenda is the budget. I'd like to at least get through that and we can take a break. You're okay with that? Okay. The next item on the non-consent agenda is adoption of the 2021-2022 budget. Dr. Holman?
Yes, so as you know, we've been on this journey regarding the budget as well. And so I'm going to invite Associate Superintendent Barbara Posthumus just to share a few comments and words regarding Resolution 2317, the 21-22 budget.
Great, thank you very much. Just a reminder about the process that we've gone through to prepare this budget and adopt the budget. The district started the process back in January, getting with enrollment projections, getting feedback, and bringing recommendations on the budget to our district SALT Strategic Advisory Leadership Team. Those recommendations were compiled, and the superintendent provided the initial draft recommendations to the board on June 28th. With the presentation, we held a public hearing on August 9th that gave the opportunity for the public to provide feedback to the budget. And so after the public hearing, we are here tonight to do the formal adoption of the budget. So the resolution before you has the amounts of the budget, and just a reminder that you're officially approving the F-195 budget document. That is the official document you're approving. We do have a more easily readable meritorious budget award budget document that is more user-friendly for our community. So that is the information I have tonight. So.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
And so just to recap, this is now our third meeting on the budget, and it's been presented several times, so we've had the opportunity to review it. There was a public hearing at our last meeting.
Correct.
And the budget was available in the district's office and on the website the entire time for the public to review and provide comment. We received no comment, is that correct?
Yeah, no public comment at the board meeting, no written comment prior to that. We did, the budget was shared on our website, and I think over 130 views on the website on the budget, and again, as per required, ads were published regarding the public hearing in the local newspapers as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
At this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2317, entitled Adoption of the 2021-2022 Budget as Presented.
Second.
Moved by Director Sage and seconded by Director Carlson that we adopt Resolution 2317, adoption of the 2021-2022 budget as presented. Any other board member questions, comments, or follow-up? Director Sage.
I would like to say congratulations on the clean audit and for achieving the 4th meritorious budget award. Well done. Thank you.
Any other board member comment?
I'm just thankful we have a budget for all the work that was done and that we have the opportunity to approve it and start our school year.
And then I'll just add, I think I probably said this last time, the presentation of our budget was great too, and that it was really focused on how these additional budget adds are achieving our strategic goals. It tied it in very clearly for me and board members, made it very easy to understand how we're spending our money, why we're spending money, and how it's going to help students. So thank you. Wonderful again. Okay, any other comments? It has been moved by Director Sage and seconded by Director Carlson that the board adopt resolution 2317, adoption of the 2021-2022 budget as presented. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Budget is approved and adopted. Okay, at this time, we will take a 10-minute break. It is 9:42. The meeting will reconvene at 9:52.
volunteers in the system currently. It's also important to note that this directive does not apply to students. This is the adults in the system right now. A couple of things we were waiting on, guidance for valid exemptions that came through just today, and some more guidance around termination of employees that are out of compliance, just to make sure that we are appropriately following procedures in light of this being a condition of employment. We are continuing to work through the processes for our volunteers and our contractors, given the kind of unique nature of our relationship with those groups. Our contractors are folks that work here but have employment status with another agency or entity. This is a time frame that Superintendent Reithaw provided, and it just kind of outlines for each of the different vaccines when you need your first dose, or if it's a 2-dose, when you need that second dose. And you can see, Pfizer, it's 21 days between dosages. Moderna, it's 28 days between doses. And so if someone wanted the Moderna, the turnaround for us to identify that person and make sure they know that September 6th is that date is very quick. And so Matt messaged all employees in the school district just today to provide a lot of this information to them so that they're aware and working towards that. We also have an interest, if there are individuals that they would prefer to, terminate employment versus become vaccinated, of replacing those individuals in a timely manner with highly qualified staff. And so being able to identify that as soon as possible is important for us as well, so that we have that time frame between, now and October 18th to do the requisite recruitment and filling of positions if we need to go that direction. And then just a quick update around the pathway forward. I think it's important for the board to know the increased enrollment in our online school. And these are rounded numbers, not exact numbers. And so over the last 2 weeks, our elementary enrollment has gone from 200 to 690 with some additional inquiries to Richard Snyder, the principal of the online school. Our enrollment in the secondary has gone from about 50 to about 200 in that same time frame. Just as a reminder, 2 different sets of rules that we are using to implement these online schools. The continuous learning 2.0, which is much more similar to what last year's remote learning was, with some updates and modifications to the rules. And the secondary model is the alternative learning experience rules, ALE, which comes with a different funding model, different funding formula, and we adopting that. And then last week, I held a live event, really just to report a message, to get information out to families and staff about a number of the questions that were coming our way. And you can see there, YouTube snapped a great picture of me for the front image of the video, so appreciate that. But this is located on our website. If anyone goes to lwc.org/pathway-forward, you can see this video. I think it ended up being about 32 to 35 minutes. And then all of our communication links to information should people be interested. There's also a link to the transcription of the message. Families who prefer a different language can interpret that on our, translate that on our website to be able to access that there as well. So that's my superintendent's report tonight. Happy to take any questions.
Do you know how many people have viewed the video? Not urgent, I'm just curious. How many people have viewed the video? I don't wonder how many people.
I don't, Shannon, do you know if...
I can look right now.
She'll pull it up for us.
Okay. I got to watch it live, so I appreciated
the detail that you went into.
Given this evening's events, what are the plans for students who show up unmasked, who show up with parents and both are unmasked and the parent refuses to mask the child? I just think if we ought to have that clear and understood, and not everybody in the world is watching tonight, but at least we can get it on record. And I think that there should be also some follow-up before the first day of school.
Yeah.
So everyone understands the game rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And, these were situations we dealt with last year as well. And so we had, families that, for whatever, a variety of reasons, had determined that their child wouldn't be masked at school. And so our school administrators had to work with those families because right now the rules are that all individuals, students, staff, visitors, volunteers, will be masked when inside our schools. And so, if a student isn't masked during the day, they cannot be in class with their peers, with very few exceptions. There are some medical exemptions, and it's not for other students to manage other students because of that. But if there are students that aren't masking, then we would need to remove them from that classroom or with that family because I believe it was my superintendent's report 2 weeks ago where I talked about Superintendent Reichdahl's directive to school districts. It is not a local decision. We do not have the authority to make a different decision around masking in classrooms. And so, if an adult comes on campus unmasked, they're outside, that is fine. The rules do not talk about outdoor masking. They talk about outdoor masking, that it's okay to be unmasked. They ask people to be masked when they're around children or unvaccinated. They strongly recommend it. But at this point in time, it's not a requirement outdoors. If indoors, we would have to comply with those rules. And if people aren't complying, we will have to help them exit our school situation.
Again, I just want to make sure we have
absolutely
very clear to everyone, so there's no misconceptions, there's no misunderstandings, and perhaps if you can also, after tonight's meeting, have a further communication to all parents, just remind them.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to follow up on the online school. That's a pretty significant jump from 200 to nearly 700, and then the high school from 200. So thank you for offering that. That was something I know was a discussion when we looked back earlier about whether or not we were going to, and the fact that we're in a situation where this is really beneficial to our families and our community. It's great that we're able to do so. How are we handling staff? I'm just, that's a big, and you have a lead, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, and so you can imagine the difficulty with that, and the difficulty isn't just about hiring teachers. We are also offering to current staff who either have medical situations or things like that where they would prefer a remote position. And so, our elementary school principals have, had teachers transition out of their current assignments with a couple weeks before school starts. And so the impact is across the board. Richard Snyder, is actively working to make sure that he's part of the staffing process, because we have an ongoing staffing process. Dale Cody is actively working with Richard to make sure that he has the right level of staff, that he's following appropriate processes to be able to offer current staff who would prefer. And then, our human resources team continues to hire as needed for our school positions or the online school if that's needed. So it's a huge lift right now, because with every open position comes kind of a domino, and with that rapid growth, that's been a big lift. And I know the team has another staffing meeting tomorrow in which they're hoping to make some final decisions around this, but we also know that we put a deadline of August 24th at 11:59 for families to express interest. That's going to allow us to really finalize our pieces around staffing. But
We're gonna send a last out reminder, due by midnight tonight.
I don't think the team was planning on sending out additional communication around.
There's not a plan for that, and Mitchell's done a really nice job of communicating out and having the website be accurate with information and helping our principals, where families really are the ones that are asking principals, how do I sign up for this online school? And then principals have the information to direct them on how to do so.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
And if there's further news on, from Senator Blackdahl or from CDC, then we can perhaps change that deadline at a certain point.
So I believe the deadline is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Is tomorrow.
I know, but what I'm saying is that all this transpired because all of a sudden Delta variant was there, and that's why our numbers multiplied.
Yeah.
And if there's other news coming out,
Yeah.
it may be a situation where you have to establish a new deadline.
If there's conditions that change, yes, absolutely. It seems like last year all over again. But the conditions drive us to be hopefully thoughtful about that, and that's why we started the online school from the start, even though it was slow to receive enrollment. And honestly, the hope was it wouldn't be needed, but it is. And so I'm glad we're able to make that available, even though it's not simple.
No.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Holman. And the video did kick back on. I don't know when, but at some point it kicked back on this wagon. So, next item on the agenda is Public and Community Affairs. Director Sage, do you have anything to report tonight?
Just really quickly, as a board member for Eastside Human Services Forum, I've been involved in meetings with Senator Cantwell's office. We met with Congresswoman Schreier last week, and we have more meetings this week. And while the forum is focused on affordable housing and digital equity, I was able to also give some examples of like McKinney-Vento students and how that plays into student needs. And they were surprised by the numbers of unhoused students that we have. So just trying to keep my hand in over the summer as we move through. That is all.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to report on Public and Community Affairs? Okay, the next item on the agenda is board comments. Any additional comments for tonight?
I'd like to follow up on the student voice in regards to climate change, and that sort of what, I know we have a variety of different things that we're doing, sustainability ambassadors and some of the different work. What sort of follow-up with the students would, because climate change is an issue, the idea of net zero and that, I think those are all great things. Actually, align some, we don't have a lot in our policies, we have a look at our facilities around sustainability practices. But it's worth delving into that a little bit. I'm just curious what potential follow-up steps would be.
Yeah, my thought was that I would follow up with kind of our sustainability efforts. They've spoken with staff, on this end, just to get some further information about that. See if we can connect those students with some of our efforts and the folks that are doing that work. But I'll follow up with the board after I get some more information.
That'd be great. Thank you.
An idea too, for the board. As we continue to look at our policies and think about revising them, we could, as we look at our facility, if we are reviewing our facilities policy again, we may want to think about having a linkage with, particularly with our students around that. What are their interests? I always find they are considerably further ahead and more thoughtful about beyond these types of issues, issues. So, something to keep back in mind. I'll do that.
And I appreciate the student voice section that you have included.
Me too. Okay. Anything else? Yes, Director Stewart.
Although it didn't go as well as anyone would have wanted from the plateau or from this area, I think we should congratulate our Little League team that made it as far as the World Series. God knows my Little League team didn't even come close to that, so I think that's one great achievement on their part and their parents' part for all the work that they have to do, put into it, and they're up next year.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, under the Open Public Meetings Act, I guess before I continue, any last comments from anyone on the board? I didn't think I saw anything. Okay, great. Under the Open Public Meetings.
If I can just say one thing.
There it is. Yes,
I'm sorry. And actually this was, I want to say, so for tonight, when we have a disruption within our meeting, that definitely causes a lot of angst and polarization within things. So I want to say thank you to our community for their response and being able to work with us through this, and then to be joined back to our meeting and come in and we look forward to further discussion. This is a tough time. I will say it was not an easy thing for us as well, or at least not for me. Because we do value public comment, we do value that opportunity and having to make that decision. But I guess my thought is with knowing the need that this is a public health issue, we are in a pandemic, we are not out of it. There are sort of things we have to do from a common good side. And I do believe our actions were right, even though they were hard. So I want to thank the graciousness that comes from that, from our community, and coming forward with that as well.
Thank you for saying that.
And their tenacity to hook up the Wi-Fi in the parking lot.
Yes, impressive, impressive, very impressive. Okay, under the Open Public Meetings Act, in-person board meetings are permitted. Attendees at this time do not need to pre-register. However, under the current mandates and the law, all attendees must wear a face covering at our meetings. The next board meeting is set for Monday, I want to make sure I have this right. Monday, September 13th, with a study session. I see 14 on here, but I'm looking at my calendar and it's the 13th. So Monday, September 13th, a study session currently scheduled for 5 p.m. in the Sammamish Room, 7 p.m. Board meeting. I want to be a little bit thoughtful about what we do for our next meeting, in terms of if we're confident there's going to be disruption again. It's difficult on those who want to provide public comment. So we'll talk at our agenda setting review. I'll get back to the board, and we will, for the community who's still with us at 10:20, we will post how and where it will be held as far in advance as we can, and make sure that there are options, particularly since the equity policy will be back on the agenda for that meeting, providing options for those to provide input, those who want to provide input to provide input. So we'll work through that, and we will get that out as soon as we can in advance of September 13th. Okay, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the August 23, 2021 board meeting.
Second.
Moved by Director Stewart, seconded by Director Sage. That we adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Aye. Opposed, hearing none, meeting is adjourned.